Here is even more policy coming out of California that's going to have an opposite effect of what political leaders who put together Senate Bill 79, a housing bill that brings dense housing to transit hubs. Here's what it's going to do. Number one, it's going to make a bunch of ghettos out of the areas near the transit hubs. Number two, more people are not going to give up their car. They're just not going to. This is California. It's not what we're doing. And number three, it will not provide affordable housing. It will not provide enough units of housing to actually measurably have an impact on housing to the point where prices start to drop or rents start to drop. That will not happen. You're not talking about enough units to actually put a dent in it. So housing costs will continue to go up. Rents will continue to go up. Housing prices will continue to go up, despite what leadership says about Senate Bill 79. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's hear what the media has to say about Senate Bill 79. Here we go.
Thank you. A bill working its way through Sacramento could clear the way for 6-story or even taller housing complexes and single-family home neighborhoods. But this contentious plan to boost housing density near train and rapid bus lines across California has ignited a heated debate among lawmakers, local officials, and community groups.
Sponsored by Senator Scott Wiener, this legislation known as SB 79 is designed to address the state's housing crisis by mandating upzoning within a quarter to half mile of transit hubs. Supporters call it essential, while critics warn it threatens local control, affordability, and could displace neighborhoods. Today, I spoke with both sides to learn more. California Senate
people over profits
would set height limits based on the level of service at the transit stop. The buildings could be up to 75 feet tall or even higher in some cases, with a density of up to 120 units per. The limits apply within a quarter mile.
120 units per acre. Tell me that isn't just ghetto waiting to happen. Oh, yeah.
Of the transit stop, with different lower limits applying further out.
Go on, 79! Go on, 79!
Neighbors for a Better San Diego took part in a statewide protest Saturday organized by Neighbors for a Better California.
Here's a bus stop.
They say that SB 79's language is vague around bus routes and that the lack of precision could allow developers to exploit ambiguities, undermining the bill's intent.
And that bus stop can be anything from just 15-minute frequency in the high in morning and evening. That will qualify as a bus stop. That 500 homes or a half mile around that area, the height now can go up to 6 to 8, even 9 stories.
Perfect.
But not everyone is opposed to the bill. Organizations like Our Time to Act tell me that this is a state bill that is critical for the future of California.
SB 79's critical implementation and allowance of...
Okay, I'm sorry. This is who we are depending upon for our, knowledge resources for housing in California? Okay, all right. All right, okay.
Apartment buildings to be built near high-frequency transit will allow for not only necessary housing to be built, but it will also kind of serve to start to curb the really severe car dependence that we have in California.
Nicole Lilly.
There it is. Car dependence. Don't like the fossil fuels. That has been so built into California and Californians that they don't understand that they're just literally every single day pulling out that revolver and shooting themselves in the foot with some more ridiculous policy. And now you're going to have the jankiest of zoning. You just, put it up anywhere close to a bus. Great. And I don't know if you know this, but areas that are close to the bus are not necessarily the nicest areas. Yeah, you got a bus stop real close. That's not good because you get nut jobs to get off the bus, especially in California, which has a third of all the homelessness in the United States. But I digress. Let's keep going.
also tells me that SB 79 ensures that buildings using the bill provide subsidized affordable homes.
There's an optimistic future that is possible. We can have it. But SB 79 will not get us there.
Community advocate Charlie Nieto says that while he does not fully agree with all of Neighbors for a Better San Diego's stances, he remains opposed to SB 79.
All of it is basically catered to luxury housing, luxury apartments, and specifically rental apartments. And I understand there's an argument that you got to create more supply to lower prices, except you're just not really seeing that housing trickle down.
And
that is probably one of the smartest statements I've heard on one of these bills out there. It's not going to trickle down. No, because this has got a pencil. And affordable housing in California, affordable housing anywhere on the West Coast, Best Coast, doesn't pencil. So they're not going to build that. They're going to build whatever makes the most sense. Oh, yeah, we can get 100 units in here at XYZ. We can sell them. We can rent them, whatever. Oh, yeah, why not? You're going to have developers just licking their chops over this stuff. Is it going to result in what they want, which is fewer people driving cars? No, it's just not. But they can look at that and go, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. And then is it going to create enough supply to actually drive down prices or make prices affordable for those who really need it, which is basically the entire working class, middle class and working class? No, it's going to do nothing for them because this is not going to be housing for them. This is not going to be affordable. It's going to be ghetto of mid-tier housing. And that's what we see in Seattle. It's nicer, it's newer, it's very expensive, but it's a ghetto nonetheless and not cheaper.
This bill passed the Senate floor in June. Then it passed out of the Assembly Housing and Assembly Local Government Committees. It now awaits further action in the Assembly.
Okay, there we go. Let's read the article. The deal with California is that they're so hell-bent on this green environmental nonsense that they're willing to do damn near everything. Hey, let's throw in 7-story buildings next to a residential community if they're close to a bus stop. What could go wrong? Right? What could go wrong? We've seen that happen here in Seattle. We changed our density requirements. We changed our zoning to allow for attached dwelling units, ADUs, for DADUs, detached dwelling units. You can have, 2 units off the back of the house, 1 off the side, and 1 up in a pear tree, And what it does, it just creates these awkward little tiny communities, and it's just all of these built on top of each other in areas that are already dense, creates a ghetto. It just flat out does. You're making ghettos. Okay. But you're not putting enough housing into the system to have a deal where there's more supply and it actually drops prices. No. And the kinds of housing that will be built here and have been built here in Seattle, they're not cheap. They're not cheap. I mean, for these little, we call them cereal boxes, there's these narrow, 1 room wide units packed into these cubics of housing, these just, strange little contemporary type structures. And when those sell for $750, $850 minimum, most people can't afford that. And that's exactly what's going to happen in California. Most people are not going to be able to afford whatever they're coming on the market, or they're coming on as decent apartment units. And that's not affordable housing. You're just continuing the trend of, hey, here's some more housing. I know it's a 2-bedroom that rents for $3,600 a month, but yeah, it's supply, got more supply. No. It's not that it's not going to move the needle. None of this moves the needle except in the wrong direction. California lawmakers passed Senate Bill 79, a bill that would override local zoning laws. Hey, build whatever you want, up to 85 feet, whatever it is, to allow dense housing developments up to 9 stories near transit hubs statewide. Oh, that's fantastic. I love California's just absolute no respect for zoning. Zoning is one of those things that creates homogeneity, meaning if if you only allow XYZ in a neighborhood and everything kind of looks the same and people know what they're getting, there aren't these surprises of, oh, hey, is your unit next door or in the shadow of a 9-story apartment building? Oh, it's not? Oh, great. Okay. Because you wouldn't have to be worried about that. And you didn't have to be worried about that kind of thing in most developments across the United States until the last few decades when we started to, it's infill. Let's become green. Bunch of nonsense. Controversial bill affects single-family neighborhoods within half miles of transit stops. They're trying to make it so everybody can just get on the bus, Gus, and go, right? Man, I rode the bus this weekend with my friend Dan to the Mariners game. It was an event. Yeah, we felt very good about ourselves. Couldn't work out how to get home, though. Couldn't work out how to get home. Had to Uber at home. So, yeah, we tried. And I'll be telling some stories from that because no thanks. Pass. I'll pass. Pass on the bus. So, in the waning hours of the 2025 legislative session, the Senate voted 21-8 to approve Senate Bill 79, a landmark housing bill that overrides local laws to expand high-density housing near transit hubs. Ghetto, no affordable housing, and build anything you want. Just build anything. Just put it up. It's going to be great. Now, one of the other things that this will encourage is developers to go ham on those kinds of sites. That's what'll happen. They're going to make some money. Oh, they're going to make some money. Because now you've got a marketplace opened up. And whenever these things go to the open market, guys are going to make money. They've got to have profit. They're going to work out what the most profit is. It isn't in affordable housing, I'll tell you that much. And however many thousands of units this might allow to be built, it's going to have zero impact on affordability. Not going to be enough housing out there where there's a flood of rental housing of new construction. Not happening. Just won't happen. So one of the more ambitious state-imposed efforts to increase housing density in recent years, the bill was introduced in March by Senator Scott Wiener. Scott Wiener from San Francisco, a Democrat from San Francisco. I remember Wiener. I remember the Wiener. Oh, of course. Who stresses that the state needs to take immediate action to address California's housing shortage. Wrong. Damage is done. You're never bringing that back. You will not have affordable housing in West Coast, Best Coast states. Period. You won't. Your economics are such that you can't reverse that. There's no such thing. Unless it is wildly, and I mean, state-sponsored, county-sponsored, city-sponsored, with massive amounts of money. Unless it's sponsored like that, you got nothing. Because your land acquisition costs alone, and then the layer upon layer of just nonsense to get a permit, the layer upon layer of just BS within the building specs, it's cost prohibitive. Doesn't work. And the only way it does work is if you build a nice product and you're able to charge premium rents or sell it to make XYZ dollars. And guess what? That is not in the affordability housing sphere. It does not happen. It opens the door for taller, denser housing near transit corridors, such as bus stops and train stations, to 9 stories. Imagine you got a little California bungalow, little 1,200 square foot, single story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-car garage. And then all of a sudden, boop, here we go. 9-story building next door. I mean, that's the single family owner's worst nightmare, right? All of a sudden, you are living next to the ghetto. And all of a sudden, all those single families, hey, wow, we can get a lot of money for this site for a developer. Those developers are just going to go through en masse in these neighborhoods. They're going to start to really targeting the areas right around the buses and trains, right? Transit centers, because then they can make a lot of money. And that's what they'll do. We have had entities within Summit Properties Northwest do the exact same thing. And how much has housing gone down in Washington? How much has rent dropped? Because we're building a lot of density closer in. How much has prices? None. check out that photo. Imagine. All right. We're really close. I think you got to be next to a transit center, though. You can't just be next to the actual train itself, right? The BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, July of 2019. Hey, let's build some housing. So this is yet another one of those controversial housing bill that they push through is impacting housing affordability on a positive side. It's just not going to happen. It's simply, it's physically impossible to build the number of units to actually see pricing drop. Now, we have world calamity, maybe we'll have some pricing come down. You have something crazy go on, maybe a little war. The war is usually pretty good for the economy, right? Got to drop those interest rates, kind of, get that spending going, something like that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a widespread worldwide pandemic. What happened to housing prices then? Oh, they went through the roof. It went absolutely through the roof. Through the roof. It was insanity because government dropped those rates. Basically just, hey, let's get to all-time low interest rates. And that's what we've been battling since July of 2022. In the real estate market, those rates doubled. Those rates absolutely doubled. So this notion that Senate Bill 79 is going to do anything other than, give politicians something to point at and go, look at that, we did that. And you're going to be able to look at that and go, yes, you did. You must be so proud. Now let's look and see which way that rents went. Oh, they continued to go up. And how about housing prices? Did those really start to drop off when you added all this housing, whatever it is, apartment complexes next to the single families near the bus stop? Did housing prices, go down? No. The books are cooked. That is the bottom line. The books are cooked, just like they are here in Washington State. Yeah, here we go. So renting in Seattle area to get harder as supply of new apartments drops. Why is apartment building dropping in state of Washington? Well, it's dropping all over because we had those interest rates that were at all-time lows and they doubled. Cost of construction for these developers it's gone way up. And so if you are, and what the Seattle Times doesn't talk about in here is that if you're a developer and you are facing all these costs and you're facing uncertainty, why would you go into a market like Seattle and build a bunch of housing when you can go to another market that doesn't have rent controls, that doesn't have all of the basically anti-real estate stuff that the state of Washington does? Why would you come into Washington State? Why would you be building in Seattle versus these other markets where you can make money? You wouldn't. And that's one of those components that we're seeing take effect right now. Slowdown appears to be here to stay for now. In Seattle, apartment permitting was down 66% in the first 6 months of this year. Apartment construction has come to an absolute standstill in Seattle. Now, some of that has to do with costs. Some of that has to do with developer risk. A lot of it has to do with interest rates. Hey, the funding isn't there to do it. But I think it's overall outlook by these developers. Hey, this doesn't pencil. Why would we do this? And we're not talking about affordable housing here. We're just talking about building apartment units in general. The kind that you need to keep going. You need to keep that supply going because believe it or not, we still got inflow of people here into the Washington market, into the Seattle market. It's basically tech driven. Even though we've got job losses going on right now, we still don't have enough housing supply. And so when you have a 66% decrease first 6 months of this year of projects approved, platting approved for this kind of development, you got one way for rents to go, and it is not down. It is up. Basic supply and demand. Now, in a year or two, you're going to have people absolutely screaming about $4,000 two-bedroom, one-bath apartment pricing. They'll be like, why can't we do anything about this? And that's why I say, when I make fun of, hey, you're a day late, dollar short here. And affordable housing ain't happening. It's just not happening. So, what are you supposed to do? If you can't afford to live in these markets, you should not live there. Don't expect a handout. Don't expect just because your family's been in the area forever, it's somehow miraculously going to work out for you. You've got the vast majority of people not able to afford basic housing in West Coast, Best Coast scenarios, which is Washington, California, and Oregon, because they're so expensive. And it's because you've got layer after layer after layer of policy baked into everything that's progressive. And we all know what progressive policy ends up as. Extra cost, extra bureaucracy, extra layer of nonsense that doesn't need to be there. 14 different steps to do something that a Republican state does in one step, or has no steps to do because they don't even think it's worthwhile. They're not sacrificing affordability for this notion of clean climate. They're not doing that. They're like, well, here's something we can do a little bit of, but for the most part, we're going to churn and burn and we're going to keep on going. It's kind of like California's, energy crisis, or I should say oil and gas crisis, where you've got refineries threatening to close down. And the California Energy Commission just running around, hey, would you buy a refinery? Or, hey, will you take $200 million so you can repair your refinery? And please don't leave our marketplace. Please don't leave Northern California. Please don't leave Southern California. We need you here because otherwise gas is going to go up in price. And our governor, Gavin Newsom, podcaster Newsom, he's not going to get elected. That's bottom line on a lot of that stuff, right? So this notion of housing and where things are going to go with Senate Bill 79, I'm sure that I'll get signed into law by Gavin Newsom, and he's going to say what a great job we did, just kind of like Joe Biden did with the Inflation Reduction Act, which should have been called the Inflation Production Act, meaning it produced inflation. This will actually not help affordable housing. You will build more, but you will build ghettos. We've seen it happen. We know that that's the drill. Will more people give up their cars? Probably not. You're going to have more and more people that are going to say, oh, good Lord, this area isn't where you want to be, because you've given up any sense of homogeneity, which is what people want to live near. They want to have they want the white picket fence, don't they? And if it's not white picket fence, they're like, oh, that's kind of rough. And they're going to be correct. And, that's kind of rough. And it's expensive. So make it easier to build on and around public transit stops has been a career-spanning effort for Wiener. And, what has that done for the environment? I mean, what has that really done for the environment? And what has this done for affordable housing when you look at other models? I think right now, we've got leadership from Portland. They are where are they right now? They're in Geneva. They are checking out social housing in Geneva, Austria. Is that where it is? I think so. Like, what you're doing? What? Again, progressives. You've got progressive leadership. Senate Bill 79, very progressive. Let's do this. It's going to be great. And all I can think of is, well, that's been done. That's not really going anywhere. But you need to be able to point, and here's what they'll do. They will point to the number of housing units, and they will not point to the correlation in pricing that has continued to go up, whether it's from the housing price standpoint or rent standpoint. That will continue to go up because you don't have enough housing. You just don't have enough. And what they're talking about here is a push. I mean, it is an absolute push at best, but you got to do something, right? Even libtards got to do something. And that's what you've got going on here. This is a progressive bill that will not work. But hey, let's give it a try, because nothing says insanity like trying the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result. This time, we're going to get some affordable housing. We're going to make housing affordable. Yeah. Now, anyway, podcast for days, weeks, months, years, decades. Because that's how long this nonsense has been going on and will continue to go on. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.